Welcome back. So today let's look at how we can create a color ID, or sometimes it's referred to material ID or color mask map in Rizom. So all I've done here is I've just downloaded the oil tin can object from Canvas, and I've loaded that in Rizom, going to the menu bar at the top where it says Files and Load with UVs. So I'm using the OBJ here, as you can see. And setting up material IDs in Rizom is really easy, surprisingly. It makes the process a lot simpler. So we know our UI already. What we haven't done here is discuss how we can change the UI so we can assign colors to the UV islands. Now, we've talked a little bit about this bar at the bottom here, this distortion bar. All we want to do here, because the UVs are already done, they're completed here, you can see, we need to go to this little drop down, click, and we want to select color ID map. So you'll see that we have a whole bunch of colors to choose from. We can sample colors here, and we can also add our own colors if we wanted to. So how this works is that we need to go to our vertical toolbar here on the left and use our island select mode, which is this globe here, this wireframe globe. And you can see that the colors are now active. So we can select the islands that we want, and then we can just simply assign a color to it. Now, there's no special meaning to any of these colors besides the fact that they are different colors. And really what's happening here is that we're assigning colors to the UV islands, and then our texturing software is looking at those colors and sampling those colors and just creating a mask based off the color selection. So it's a good idea when we're creating a color ID mask just to make sure that we're using contrasting colors and they're not too close together. Although it probably wouldn't be a problem visually anyways for us, we can sort of see a clear difference. And if there's any sort of weird or loose sort of tolerance levels within the color selection of the program you're using, just making sure that you have a very clear contrasting colors selection in your color mask would probably be the best idea. So all I'm going to do here is select the islands that I want to have a particular color. Now I can do this in the 3D space or the 2D space. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to start off by doing this in the 3D space. Now I'm going to select these. Well, let's discuss what should be a color and what should be a separate color. This can sort of change depending on what you're doing, I guess. Sometimes the easiest way to sort of figure this out is the different materials that are on your model. So this model here has a bunch of different materials. There's the tin can itself, and then there's the handle, the cap, and then we're also going to plan on putting a label around here. And we're going to take that into consideration as well. So let's start off with the handle here. So this handle is going to be one material. So let's just select all these polygon faces here. Well, in this case, because we're in island mode, we're actually selecting the UV islands. And in this mode, we backface culling is enabled. So we can just make sure that we need to rotate around and just look at what's not selected, and just hold down Control and add that to our selection. Or if we know what we're selecting in our UV space, we can select the areas that we want. So if I press Control and select this, I know that that's being selected, and pretty sure that's the underside of this handle. Yep, and just got to sort of double check if we have everything selected. Now that looks pretty good to me. So what I'm going to do is just assign that a particular color. So we have our colors down here, and I'm just going to give that a color. So this handle is probably going to be red, and it doesn't really matter. Though just to keep things nice and simple, I'm just going to give that a green instead of a red. So if I click off the model, it deselects, and you can see now it's green, sorry. And let's do the same for the cap. So I'm just going to highlight the first island here, hold down Control, and if you misclick and you accidentally click something that you shouldn't, you can just press Control Shift and click that island, and it will deselect from that selection. All right, so let's just grab these pieces. I'm just going to double check that in the UV space here, and that looks pretty good. Just double check in 3D space that everything is selected. So let's give that, let's say, a blue color. Right, so that looks good. And the last thing to do, well, there's actually two things to do. So we want to grab the tin, or the metal pieces here. But we also got to consider that we do want to add a label on this. And that label is pretty much going to be this whole sort of larger side faces here that runs all the way around this tin can. So I'm going to separate that into its own island, just so when we start texturing this thing, we can really quite quickly isolate the label, which will make the process so much easier. So let's grab this face here, hold down Control, and let's select the other faces. So it's just these two that we're looking for. So these guys here. And let's give that this red color. And then for the rest, let's grab, and it might be easier in the 2D space here. Let's grab anything that's not highlighted, a particular color. So let's grab all these little guys here, which are these sort of clips that hold the handle in place. So these guys here. And let's give that a yellow. Great, so that's pretty much done. So we do want every area to have a color. It just makes things nice and easy. And that didn't take very long at all. Now to get this out of Rizom, we just need to export that out. And there's a couple settings that we do want to use. So let's go to File in the menu bar at the top here. And then let's go to Export UVs. Now we have a default file path here. So if I want a custom file path, I can pick custom and select these three little dots, and I can locate where I want that to be exported to. Now this is fine. I usually save temporary files to downloads because I clear my downloads every once in a while. Non-empty tiles, we want that. That's fine. And 1024 should be a large enough size for this process. You don't want to go too low, because then if it's too pixelated, it might not give a clear enough selection. It might be a little bit blurry. So I think 1024 should be fine. We certainly don't need to go 4K or anything like that. We want to enable this template here. So the UV template A, which is just your default channel here. So it's just this one. And then we want to make sure the background is set to color. And then we want to export out the color map ID. And the important part here is that we just give everything a little bit of padding. So just a little bleed over. So right now you can still see that the color map is exactly within the borders of the UV islands. this padding here will just bleed over just 3 pixels. And this will just ensure that the color map ID or the UV island is being completely selected in our texturing program. If we don't do this, our UVs aren't like fully accurate, or right now we're looking at this as a vectorized graphic. So this is just a math equation creating this line here. When we take this into something like Substance, it'll be a rasterized image, meaning that we've got to start taking pixels into account. So if we just give it a little bit of padding, it just ensures that if there's any sort of issues with pixelation or anything like that, we know that this island's going to be fully selected because there's a padding of 3. That's just a number that I picked, by the way. You don't want to bleed too much because then it will sort of bleed into the other UV islands here. 3 is just I did this before and it looked fine. So edges, we want to have that off. This is the wireframe basically, so we don't want to render that out. So just turn that off. And if you want to export the OBJ file as a special export, you can enable this as well, although it doesn't matter in this case. And what we've got to do is just press export. Now we should have this file here now once we have that exported. So I'm just going to open this color map and we should have something like this. So this is what I've done earlier. That's why it looks different to the colors that I have here. But that is basically what we have. We've got to have this with a texture map that comes out of this. So let's find that again. That just looks like, let's see, just like this. All right. So if you just want to make sure that it looks like this, then that should be fine. If you think you're bleeding too much and it's sort of bleeding over on top of the other island, then just adjust that bleed or that padding in this case, and it should fix that right up. And that's how we create color map IDs in Rizom.